Hello, everyone. This is Evan, and welcome to my tournament report for the Pittsburgh Regionals, where I decided to play Gardevoir EX. As you guys can see, it didn't go nearly as well as I had hoped. I didn't even make day two this time, which is kind of unfortunate. My goal for this season is like every regional, I want to be making at least, at the very least, day two. Of course, I'm going to be trying to get uh, some really good results in day two. Like my big goal for the season is to get my first top cut in Masters. So yeah, as you guys can see though, I went 4-3-1, lost both win and ends. So I'm going to be going over the list and how things went. Yeah, so let's just get into it. So here's the list I played. This is one card off from the list that won the Monterey Regionals the weekend before. The only thing I changed was I cut the second counter catcher for a second copy of Screamtail, which I actually really liked that cut a lot throughout the tournament. The second Screamtail was really good because the games that you prize your one Screamtail, it only happens 10% of the time, but those 10% of games you're pretty unlikely to win just because Screamtail is such an important attacker in almost every single matchup. So basically, having uh, yeah, basically always having a Screamtail available to you and never having it prized was really good throughout the tournament. And then also it can put a lot less pressure on your Super Rod and Night Stretchers because in some matchups like Goldango, where you need to be attacking with Screamtail pretty much every single turn of the game, you don't have to recover it every turn. You can, yeah, you can just uh, bench the other one. So the list overall, I was really happy with the list. I thought the list was pretty good. So um, yeah, so let's get into the matchups. Round one, I hit Dylan. He was playing Goldango Joltik Box. So kind of an unfavorable matchup right off the bat. Not exactly the matchup I wanted to hit. Game one, I my opponent whiffed the turn one jolting charge, and I was able to get like Candy Guardy, and I Screamtail sniped a Gimmighoul. However, I didn't have enough energies to actually put enough damage on the board to use Monkey Dory. I think I could only get like 2 energies in the discard. If I had been able to also monkey the Joltik, I basically would have won on the spot because if I can take the first two prizes in this matchup, then um, yeah, I basically just win. And then my opponent evolved into Goldango, so he didn't even go for like the Iron Hands or anything because he didn't have an energy for Joltik. So he was just playing as a Goldango deck essentially. So he evolved to Goldango, knocked out my Screamtail, and I Iono'd and drew into like a completely dead hand off of the Iono. So all I could do, like I had Gardevoir set up, but I had pretty much no Screamtail available to me. So I just had to mind bend the Goldango, which felt really bad. Um, and then my opponent like retreated into the other Goldango, drew a lot of cards, knocked out my monkey, and then I went ahead and started my turn, and I basically was just going to have to mind bend again because I had two monkeys in play, but no Screamtail. So I had started my turn, and then my opponent, while I was like playing a vessel or something, my opponent said, "Hey, I messed up. I don't have a metal energy on this Goldingo." So he knocked out my monkey, but had no metal energy to attack, and neither of us had noticed it. So we called a judge over, and unfortunately, my opponent got a DPL for that, a double prize loss. And we had to reset the board state from the last attack, so he didn't knock out my monkey. So I just mind bended again, and then um, he knocked out my monkey. The next turn, I top decked something that allowed me to play the game, and I was able to kind of just prize race, and I won the game because of the double prize loss. Unfortunately, kind of drawing the dead hand off of the Iono would have probably meant I would lose that game if I um if he didn't get the double prize loss. So feels kind of bad to win that way, but I guess sometimes that's just how it goes. And then game two, um it came down to I Iono'd my opponent and took a knockout, and I wasn't able to find my last Artisan to bump the Levincia though. So if he could find Boss SER, he wins the game. So he starts drawing his cards. He gets to the last Golden Go, uses coin bonus, draws Boss SER. and he wins game 2. So I ended up tying um, to that matchup, which I guess like a tie isn't awful since that is a pretty bad matchup for Gardevoir. So yeah, yeah, going into the tie bracket feels kind of bad though because I'm likely to hit other slow decks like Gardevoir Mirror, um, which are kind of likely to end in ties. So round 2, I hit a very interesting deck, Raging Bolt with Joltik Box. I think someone got like top 64 at Worlds with this or something. Um, so yeah, game 1, I went first. I'm pretty sure. I started deck checking, and I'm like, "Oh no, I have double Gardevoir priced." So I was like, "Wow, it's happening this early in the tournament." Okay, so yeah, as you guys might know, if you prize double Gardevoir, you pretty much just lose most of the time. So my opponent, like I just attached a monkey and passed. My opponent went for jolting charge. I retreated in a scream tail and used slap on the joltic. And luckily, I unprized one of the Gardevoirs. If I did not unprize it, I was getting ready to just scoop and go to game 2. Um, but I was able to unprize the Gardevoir, and then my opponent took 2 with Iron Hands. I don't remember what I did. I think I like Iono'd and just yeah, I think I got like Candy Guardy and then I Iono'd and knocked out the Iron Hands with Scream Tail, and then my opponent eventually whiffed an attack. I think my opponent made a few like miss sequences and stuff that potentially lowered his odds of finding all of the attacks. Um, like I remember on his first turn, he benched the Mew and had like a 2 card hand, but forgot to restart. So just like a few minor errors, I guess. So I won game 1, and then game 2, my opponent fully bricked. So I was just able to take 6 prizes before he took any, just because like his hand was completely dead at the beginning. So I was just able to set up and win that one. So 101 at this point. Round 3, I hit a straight Joltik deck. So this is my third Joltik deck of the day. I've hit all 3 variants of Joltik at this point. Game 1, um, kind of the same thing happened where I was in a position to just win the prize trade, but I Iono'd myself and drew a completely dead hand, so I just had to mind bend his Iron Hands. So I got like super far behind this game. I think I was like 4 prizes behind. Um, and then at some point I had 80 damage on a Scream Tail with a Bravery Charm on the Scream Tail, and my opponent had Galvantula with Grass Psychic Energy attached, so he hit for 50, and then he didn't realize there was the Bravery Charm on the Scream Tail, so he just attacked it, and that kind of cost it in the game, unfortunately, because like he didn't knock out the Scream Tail because he thought it didn't have the Bravery Charm, and then he just gave me a bunch of free damage to work with, so just like a 130 damage Scream Tail, um, I'm basically like knocking out everything in his deck. So I was able to win that one. I made a comeback that game, and then game 2, I made a pretty big misplay. I had Fez and Mew on the board, and I attached Bravery Charm to Fez, and then eventually got to a board state where my opponent's only attackers charged up were Iron Hands and Galvantula. I need to Iono my opponent, knock out the Iron Hands, and hope they don't find the 2 prize knockout. And I should have attached Bravery Charm to Mew instead of Fez, because basically all my opponent needed was a Gust um, to knock out my Mew with Galvantula. But if I had attached the Bravery Charm to Mew instead, then it would then my opponent would basically need Blood Moon, Energy, and Boss, so much lower odds. So I misplayed pretty big there, um, but luckily my opponent did not find Boss anyway, so I still won. I was kind of frustrated with myself for misplaying so hard, but you know, um, yeah. Uh, I at least got the win though, so I'm 201. Round 4, I hit a Dragapult Charizard. This is a matchup I admittedly did not have much practice into, but I imagined it was a pretty okay matchup for me. Maybe close to even. Uh, game 1, it um, it came down to I was able to Screamtail snipe my opponent's Dracloaks early, and then my opponent had like a Charizard set up, but basically a completely dead hand other than that. So I just mind bended the Charizard. My opponent went draw, attack, and he flipped tails. Um, so I don't think I was able to actually take a knockout on the Charizard. Um, so I just like spread some more damage, use mind bend or something, and my opponent flipped tails again, which basically ended the game there. Um, yeah. So yeah, just flipping the tails was kind of unfortunate. Um, and they just had so much damage on their board that I was just able to take advantage of that. Game two, it came down to I was just able to prize race my opponent. At some point, he attacked with Dragapult, and I think I took like one prize at the beginning by mind bending Badoo, and then my opponent attacked with Dragapult, and I was able to go um, Clefairy, Mew, um, knockout with the Mew, um, knock out the Dragapult, and then I like Adrena Brain 30 to Drakloak and knocked that out too. So I went down to 4 prizes, and I set up a checkmate because I had already like set up some damage on the Charizard, so I had enough damage on my Mew so that even if he went Boss Gardevoir, then um, then my Mew just wins the game because I had enough damage on the Mew so that I could Adrena Brain some more damage, and I had like perfect math to knock out the Charizard. And if he just knocks out the Mew, I have plenty of outs to Night Stretcher, so the only way I could really lose is if I get like Ionode and with Night Stretcher somehow, which was pretty unlikely because my deck was pretty thin at that point. So I was able to win that one. 301 at this point. Round 5, I hit Charizard Pidgeot. This matchup's pretty close. Um, However, for this matchup, I do need them to either I do need to either be able to um, snipe like their Pidgey or something pretty early on, or I need them to whiff an attack at some point. Unfortunately, game one, he basically drew perfectly, and he was able to win in 3 turns by going for like a Dusknoir Briar countercatcher play. Like I Ionoed my opponent, and then he found like he literally found Dusknoir countercatcher Briar off the Iono. So I lost game one. Like he drew very well that one, and then game two, it came down to my opponent um, won on a Mind Bend flip, which was unfortunate. Like he bossed Mew and attacked through confusion and flipped heads. If he had flipped tails, I probably was going to win that one. So I think that was like one of the few matchups in this tournament that I don't think there was like anything I could have done differently, which is kind of just how it goes sometimes. Sometimes you can like play a matchup uh, well and still lose because of variance because you know it is a card game, so there are going to be some forms of variance. Round 6, I hit a Flareon. Pretty good matchup. Game 1, I just prize raced to my opponent. Game 2, it came down to um. So my opponent, at some point, I was in a pretty good spot to win, but my opponent used Noctowl, started searching the deck, or like he looked at the bottom card, and I was like, "Hey, you don't have a Terra in play." So I didn't really care. I just let him take back the Noctowl and shuffle his deck because there was no like Iono or anything played. Um, sorry. Um, but then uh, he was able to kind of make a comeback by going Iono and then spamming Angelite to shuffle back like my Gardevoir and Curlia. And um, yeah, so time was called, so I'm turn 0, and I Iono my opponent and just pass. Or I think I don't know, I might have mind bended or something. But anyways, my opponent needs to find Energy, Briar, Countercatcher to attack with Terapagos and win the game because I had like 2 prizes at this point. He had 3, and he was not able to find it, sadly. Um, or I guess not sadly for me because I was able to win that one. Um, yeah, so 4-1-1 at this point. So at this point, if I can just win one of these next 2, I'm locked in for day 2. Round 7, I hit Eric. Um, Playing Jelly Gertie. This matchup's kind of bad for me um, because the Jellicent's really good in the mirror. They can um, turn off my Night Stretchers, which is really powerful. Game 1, my opponent kind of had like a better setup than me at the start of the game, or so it seemed, but I was able to just evolve into Gardevoir and knock out the Jellicent with Gardevoir, and my opponent basically had like um, no no like attacker or anything for the next turn, so he just scooped and went second. And game 2, it was just a prize race, and I lost because my opponent got ahead on the monkey war. Going into game 3, there's like 10 minutes left. Um, my opponent and I had discussed a gentleman's agreement, but I didn't really want to do it, so I said no. Because in this matchup, board state can be really hard to determine. So I just said no to the gentleman's agreement, and we agreed we were just going to play it out, see if we could finish a game in like 10 or 15 minutes. And I basically bricked game 2, unfortunately. Um, However, I was just playing it out pretty much just for a tie at this point. So I'm glad I didn't make the gentleman's agreement because I would have lost that one for sure because my opponent was setting up and I was bricking. Um, and then we kind of just like time was about to be called pretty soon, so we just said let's go ahead and tie. No one's gonna win. Because I think I still had like 6 prize cards and he had 3. And it was about to be called, so we agreed to tie. And then my opponent was like, "Hey, can we actually play it out? I think I have a win condition." So I said sure. Um, so we put the cards back and he attacked. Went down to 3 prizes. And I was like I promoted and drew my card, and right as I drew the card, time was called. So if I had waited literally like 1 more second, this game would have been a tie. But you know, I drew my card. I Iono'd my opponent, and for him to win, he needs to find um, Monkey, Dark, Brave Charm for Screamtail, so he can take 3 prizes. And he found it all off of the Iono to 3. So um, lost that one. So I still have one more win and end. Um, Round 8 is Dragapult Dusknoir. Um, game 1, uh, game 1, I was able to set up a Gardevoir, and I won the prize race. Game 2 and game 3, I just bricked under Badoo, and my opponent just Badooed for multiple turns, and I didn't get a Gardevoir set up either game, unfortunately. So he was able to just board wipe all my Curlios with the Dusknoirs. Which is how this matchup goes. Like either I set up, if I set up, I win this matchup pretty much every time. But if they can set up, or if they can stop me from setting up for long enough and then board wipe me, uh, that's how they win. Like for them to win this matchup, like the longer the game goes, the more likely I am to win, pretty much. Because if I get fully set up, I always win, pretty much. So um, yeah, very unfortunate, but he was able to brick me with the do for long enough, and I lost that one. I think I did make a misplay game too. I don't really remember what I did. Like usually um, like usually I remember a lot of the misplays and stuff, but for this tournament, it was all kind of a blur. Um, so I don't really remember what I did game 2, but I think I made like a misplay that I probably still was going to lose. I remember thinking I was still likely to lose, but if I had uh, like made a correct sequence or something, I possibly could have had like slightly better odds. So I don't know. Um, but yeah, 4-3-1, kind of frustrating, but I still had a great time playing Pokemon in Pittsburgh this weekend. Um, yeah, I'm not too happy with how the tournament finished, but yeah, I'm gonna have to just lock in and um, do better at the next one. So yeah, thanks for watching. If you want to join my Discord server and my Metafy group, both of them will be linked in the description. So yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one.